Good morning, gardening friends. Happy Easter. It is a overcast day right now, but hopefully it'll clear up a little bit later in the day. It's perfect timing to do a video though, because there's no sun to contend with. So I'm starting out here in the backyard, and you can see my Sarracenia. What's the name of this? Scarlet Bell is in bloom. I'm not going to touch any of the dead leaves yet, or the pictures yet, until the blooms die back. Once when things flower, I tend not to mess with the plant to send it into any kind of a shock. This Sarracenia that I bought last year has sent out 2 new pictures. Oh, here you can see all of my violets. They seeded themselves in that pot, and I left them. Loropetalums are done blooming. The sedum is just starting. These sedum were all planted, but for 2 of them. I forget which 2 are the original ones, about a month ago. And here you can see the hens and chicks are still plump and juicy, so hopefully they'll take root. There's a noisy cat in the neighborhood. I did uproot one of my caladiums, and lo and behold, there is some activity. And actually, I'm glad I uprooted it, because this one I had planted upside down. This is the right way up to plant them. It's hard to tell sometimes until they sprout, and then you see the little buds coming up. Doesn't make any difference. They'll grow no matter how they're planted, even upside down. They won't right the bulbs, but the leaves will still come up. They'll just arch around the bulb. It's a pain if you like all of your caladiums to be the same size, because the ones planted upside down, or in some way making them stretch, are not going to be, they'll be a little delayed. Eventually they'll get to the same height as the other caladiums, but not at the same time. I'm going to be planting my seeds out in the potager. It's getting warmer, and so I have to water a little more. Here you can see the white angel's trumpet has disappeared. I'm going to be planting one of my iochroma, or the iochroma cutting that I took. I was going to plant it where the iochroma was last year, but it turns out it survived the winter. So I have had daturas, of which that is, here. And daturas I would never plant next to my back door again, because, quite frankly, they stink. If you brush against the plant, they emit a stinky odor. So I don't need them in a spot where I might brush against them. Other thing to note is my bananas are coming back. They're rising above the aspidistra. Unfortunately, I snapped one off that was right behind this pot. It'll come back. But you may remember last week my fountain stopped working. One of my fountains stopped working. And come to find out, it's a dead pump. But in the process of finding that out, it turns out the electrical line that I ran back there, it's just an extension cord, grew between 2 of those big bananas, and I had to actually yank it out. They grew so tight around it, I had to yank it out of the ground. And in the process of doing that, I snapped one of the new bananas, but it'll come back again. Here you can see the toad lilies are doing well as one over there. Things are really growing quickly now. This is the little fountain. I bought a new pump, so I just have to replace the pump in that fountain. I'll get to it eventually, hopefully this week. I still need to clean this bed out a little bit. The dead ferns are still there. It gets increasingly more difficult now that the new ferns are coming up through the dead. I'll have to do it one at a time, as opposed to, if I got it earlier, I could have used hedge trimmers. Back in here, the nandinas are really growing, and the fruit on the loquats is appearing. Even though some of it got hit by frost, you can see some are dead, but we do have some fruits. They will eventually turn orange and be quite tasty, but they do have a large pit in them. This ladyfinger palm has still got some green in it, so it's not quite dead, although it looks almost dead. Oh, I hadn't looked up recently. Let me show you the top of this palm before I forget. This has definitely blossomed or sent out its inflorescence. This is the windmill palm. I always forget to look up. I can see it from my deck. And the Canary Island date palm has been heavily fertilized with the proper amount for the size of the trunk. And it is alive, but hopefully we'll get a new top on it soon. Strawberries are starting to ripen. They're not huge, but they are red. And my knockout rose is in bloom. Here you can see the wild spiderwort, or Tradescantia, as opposed to its cousin, the purple Tradescantia, underneath. It actually looks kind of neat with that sky blue color next to the purple. My Ozark plum has pretty much leafed totally out, so it's good I didn't lose any branches. It's leafing out a little slower towards the top. Didn't have any blossoms this year, so no fruit, but that's okay. We'll have a healthy tree. Here is where I planted the white angel's trumpet, where we had just opened this up by cleaning out that, or cutting back that Beaufort holly, and you can see it is coming back with a vengeance. And this white angel's trumpet should do quite well over here. It gets quite a lot of sun, and it already is wilting less. They're hard to keep in a pot because they're very heavy feeders as well as drinkers. Oh, I can hear the church in the background. The church bell's ringing. I've got a lot of flowers coming. Not quite opened yet, but will be shortly on the jasmine. We'll give an honorable mention to my lavender plants. I don't move them. They survived the winter. They've been there now in those pots for, I believe, definitely 2, possibly 3 years. I don't move them because undoubtedly the roots have grown through the pots into the ground. They do like to drain, so I have really good luck with lavender in pots. I guess one of the highlights of today's garden is my bottle brush tree. You can see a close-up of the flowers. They do have a unique looking flower. There's more down here. Looks kind of neat. This little gap here where I had the datura last year is where I'm going to put the pink angel's trumpets. But yeah, I must say the bottle brush is looking quite nice today. The one little patch that I'm leaving of oxalis is now looking pretty good. I dragged a bag of leaves over it and kind of knocked it back. But as you can see from the leaves all over the place, I don't think it's going to stay in that one little spot. Well, hopefully, I do have covering that I bought last year for my fig tree, netting, I should say. But I see blueberries coming. Yay! It's really going to be the first year that I will have a significant number of blueberries. Not so much on these, but there are a few. And the yellow angel's trumpet here is doing quite well. Still being eaten by the slugs. However, when it rises above the aspidistra, they'll stop eating it. It can grow faster than the slugs can eat right now. So the plan is white angel's trumpet there. Where am I pointing? White angel's trumpet there. Pink over here, and orange over there, or peach over there. It's really fragrant back here today. The citrus satsuma trees in the backyard are in absolute full bloom. So you not only have the lemony scent of the roses, but you have the really sweet scent of the satsumas. I like it better in the morning, like now. The smell is not quite as intense as the day goes on, especially when the sun comes out. The scent really gets cloying. You can see there are some bees working the blossoms. More will come out later in the day. These are the early shift working the flowers. Here you can see my original toad lily that I took a chunk out of. It's doing well. There. I've got my line out. I do like to hang quilts in the sun, especially this time of year, being so close to that satsuma tree on that side, that the scent of the satsuma also gets into the fabric. Here you can see my sedums are all doing well. This little clump is spreading quickly, hopefully before the birds can get to it. They took a liking to the sedum in this trough last year and ate it totally up. And the sedum that I planted here is already growing, and it's jumping its bounds over here and will root quite nicely on the ground over there. I guess the birds have discovered that, because I see little bits of it on the ground. It too can grow faster than the birds can eat. These flowers are just absolutely full. I will probably have to pick fruit off of this tree, because if every one of those gives me a satsuma, it can literally tear the tree down. It gets just so heavily laden with fruit. Last time it bloomed real heavily, I took like 2 garbage bags, black garbage bags full of quarter-sized fruit off of the tree, and still the branches bent down to the ground with the fruit that was left. Here the Lenten roses are still, well, they're going to stay there. They're not really in bloom anymore, but these are the bracts left. The foxgloves are starting to send up their shoots. They don't come back in that spot every year. I buy new foxgloves. I haven't found a spot yet where foxgloves come back. They used to up north for me, but not here. And here you can see the Lenten rose still looking good. Same over here. This one was the last to bloom, so it still has some blossoms way inside there. And I've got some Easter lilies coming up here and there. I will be going to Lowe's tomorrow. I bought one Easter lily in the house. And I'm going to go early tomorrow morning to Lowe's to see if they mark them 50% off. Oh, I got a free gift from the neighborhood. It's been very windy. These topiaries forms are doing pretty well. I have tied up the ivy a couple of weeks ago. Here's the other spot where I planted the toad lily. I watered it yesterday with a hose, hence the leaves of the ivy got hit by the water because the hose doesn't stretch long enough to get all the way out there. My cordyline has come back here. The one in the backyard, however, appears to be dead, so I will have to put something else in that strawberry pot. Here, my Australian tree fern, let me get rid of this piece of trash, is leafing out nicely. There's no doubt that it's going to live. Yay! It's only my second year there. And you can see here the amaryllis are coming. These are the ones that were planted out. We have a bunch of blossoms now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then on this side, looks like just 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's a double. 4. Oh, one more. 5. So almost even. These banana trees are doing well. I have, of course, fertilized everything now. So I did not fertilize the grass. I didn't get it mowed last week because I wanted it to, it's not going to stay this lush and green much longer. This is winter rye, and the heat is going to kill it. So I kind of like the look of the green, and I figured let's get it a little fluffy. So I let it grow this week. I am going to have to weed over here. I always hear people talk about weeding, and oh, you need to get the little weeds. It's like, no, actually, you let them get really big, and they smother out some of the smaller weeds, and you got something to pull on to get them out of the ground. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to that one. I see something. Oh, I thought I saw some trash at the street, but it's not. Here's where I'm going to plant the cucumbers again. That needs a little weed out. I see something's eating my fig tree. Don't know exactly what. I didn't think things ate the fig, but something apparently is. I'll have to keep an eye on it. I heard a phrase on Gardener's World, one of my favorite gardening programs, actually the favorite gardening program. And it just started again for this year. I think it's on its 3rd episode. But I heard an older couple, of course, I should say my age couple, talking about gardening, and they quoted a Chinese proverb that I had never heard before. They said, the best fertilizer is often the shadow of the gardener. A lot to be said for that. I do need to get after the oxalis, but the good news is, in the heat of the summer, it dies back and disappears. Here's where I plan to put some more Easter lilies. If I can get some more this year, I'll definitely put the one that I have in the house out. And the potager, everything seems to be growing. I will be planting out those seeds I started out here. Lemon balm has really taken off this year. Didn't do much last year. I have garlic back here. And then here are my little bunch onions. Basil's doing fine. Strawberries that I planted a row of in the front, a few have come back. I don't ever expect a large turnout when you get bare root strawberries, but you're not paying much for them, so at least if one or two come out, you got your money's worth. Looks like the blackberries have caught. This is broccoli that I planted there. I'm going to be planting in clumps like that. Years ago, they called that the square foot method. I'm sure there are other names for it today. Same thing, just different name. Oh, it looks like... well, lo and behold, the dandelions that I dug up that died back are coming back from the ground. I did have some doubt as to whether they would grow, but apparently they did catch, even though they only had about 3 inches of root to them. Sage has done really well this year. Sage usually gets very big for me because I don't use it very much. Oh, I see another flower on my blackberry bushes. My mint that I planted, my grandmother's name was Sophie, so I call it Sophie's mint. It's still coming up. The two things that look kind of pitiful are the mint and the Thai basil, but it does look like they'll make it. And pretty soon, the snapdragons will start blooming again. They, of course, bloomed in the fall and didn't do much all winter, but they're coming back now. Looks like I lost one on the corner, but that's okay. I have a few spares here in a pot. Oh, the other flower that's blooming this week is the mock orange. It's a beautiful plant. I knew what it was, so I left it. And there's another sprout coming up over here that I've left. I will cut it back to get it bushy. Years ago, this whole section here on this side of my sidewalk had a bunch of those. And for some reason, they just all died one year. So I do like the mock orange, Philadelphias. So I do want to get them to come back again. And here is my pot of lemon grass. Everything looks like it's doing really well, except for the cycad, but that's because this is a female and it's got the blossom. It's still setting fruit. So until the fruit drops, it's not going to send up any new leaves. I could cut the dead off, but it has a little bit of green there yet. I think it looks a little better with the fronds on it than if it was just a stub sticking up. Personal opinion, you don't have to necessarily trim it either way. It'll do quite well without any input from me. I don't know if you can catch the little cardinals. They're working over my backyard. This satsuma tree had bloomed. It was the first to set flower. Oh, you can see they are a little messy. And you can see already little fruits forming. But there you have it for today. I hope you all have a happy Easter. I'm having friends come over later. I've done a lot of cooking already. We're having a seafood extravaganza. I've already done some boiled shrimp, and I'm going to be making shrimp scampi, courtesy of Aldi's Frozen Foods. And actually, courtesy of Aldi as well, we're having lobster tail. So, until next week, have a good one. And happy Easter once again.